One, it's good to see you here. I am so excited that you were able to be with us. We know it's a late evening, especially for grammar parents, but we wanted to give the opportunity for those of you to join from all time zones. We're going to remove the chat in a moment and switch that out with the Q&A pod, but I just wanted to take a moment to let everyone introduce themselves, to pray to get us started. It's good to have you here. I hope that you're having a good first few weeks of school. If you're here, I'm guessing that you've had a good first few weeks of school, but you're also feeling like you've got some questions that you'd love some answers to. And we're glad you're here for that. So please, let's start with prayer. Dr. Bob, would you mind coming up and praying for us?
I'd love to, Rebecca. Thanks for asking me. And I'm sorry that I didn't respond to you just a bit ago. Adobe said, hey, do you want to update? And I always say no, and I thought it might happen quickly, so I gave it the green light this time. So I didn't see your question until now. Let me turn my camera on here. Not that you need to look at me while we're praying, but would you please bow your heads and hearts with me as we give our time to the Lord here. Father, we come before you humbly and even boldly and ask that you would be with us in this meeting space tonight. Lord, that you would equip and encourage not only our teachers and other staff who are here to answer what questions might come our way about the school, but that you would also equip our families with the confidence that I would love to see them have in our ability to meet the needs of their children, not only from an educational perspective, but even from a spiritual one. Uh, Lord, we're not pastors per se, but in some way we are helping to shepherd these young hearts and minds as we teach them about you and about your creation, not just referring to courses that overtly refer to creation, Lord, but everything that our children are learning is a part of your creation and your goodness and an extension of your love and grace towards us as your people. Lord, I ask that you would bless people like Rebecca who took the time to put this together. We have not done quite the same meeting in the past, is my understanding and recollection. And so, Lord, I'm excited to have this new opportunity for us to invite our parents that we might have a conversation and have them walk away feeling even more supported than they already do by their teachers, and for some of them, their advisors, and hopefully by the rest of us in the administration. Father, I ask simply that you would be with us here, that you'd be present among us, and we ask that this would even bring honor and glory to your name. And we do pray in your great name, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you so much. So let me just take a moment to introduce myself. I will not be the one answering questions today. We have an incredible panel who are about to introduce themselves. But my name is Rebecca Tunstall. I am blessed to be the manager of diploma services here. So if you're in the full-time diploma program, you may have seen communications from me before. But I would say my extra passion and primary passion probably is for education. I've been teaching here at Veritas for about 8 years now, since my youngest son was born. And I cannot even begin to express the honor it is to be able to join with you as parents in educating your children. It is such a blessing. And I know it is not a decision you make lightly. I know it's not a decision I make lightly when I ask a teacher to educate my children and to come alongside of me. So we appreciate that you're here. And we appreciate that you may be having questions, wanting some practical tips. So tonight is for you. It's questions and answers. We are not going to talk at you. We're going to work with you to try to get some answers. I'm going to put out this question and answer pod. You may not be familiar with this. Perhaps if you've been in a Zoom seminar before, you've seen something similar. When you type your question there, you'll be able to see it and the panel will be able to see it, but not everyone else. Every once in a while, we might reply all and it'll make your question public if we feel like it's a time for that. But for the most part, we're going to be using that as a way to see what questions we've answered, which ones do we still need to. So if your question disappears after we answered it, it's probably because I deleted it, so we can keep track of what questions we have. We have an hour here. If your questions are done in 30 minutes, we're that efficient. Awesome. If not, we're here for you to answer these questions. So without further ado, I would really like to encourage each and every single one of the panel members to join me on camera. While they are, this Q&A pod is going to be our primary mode. So please, you can start asking questions there. I am going to be asking some preset questions that we've seen through social media or we've had come into our departments. So you guys can join me on camera, all of the panel. We have 4 amazing students here, 2 teachers, an academic advisor, and a family consultant. What an incredible group of people gave up their evening, and I am so excited that they're here. So I'm going to stop talking. Why don't we start with allowing the teachers to introduce themselves, students, advisor, and family consultant. We'll go in that order.
Hi, my name is Shanna Demi, and I've been teaching at Veritas for, I think, 5 years now. I don't even remember. It's been a while. I'm both a teacher and a parent here. I have a son who's been going through, he's in 10th grade now. So I get it from both sides. I understand the frustrations of all the homework, but I also understand the need for what we are actually handing out to you all. I teach Math 5, pre-algebra, algebra 1, and Matthew C, algebra 1. And yeah, I'm loving it. I believe in the school. I tell everyone that I know that I believe in the school. This is the best school I have ever dealt with, and I've taught for almost 30 years now. So I'm just excited to be here. I get excited every year when we get these new kids. So that's me.
Well, hello, I am Honesty Martin. I'm the Grammar Math Department head. This is my 10th year teaching here at VSA. I teach Saxon Math 5 and Saxon Pre-Algebra, and this year Algebra 2 over in the secondary math department. So I am absolutely, as Shanna said, just thrilled. Every year is exciting. It doesn't feel like a job when you love what you do. And then this combined with my other years, I'm looking at almost 20. So you've got me beat by about 10 years. Looking at almost 20 years of education in all, but I'm just thrilled to be here with you all this evening, and we're excited. So nice to meet you.
Okay, I guess I'll just go first for the students. So I'm Dawson. I've been here at Veritas for 7th years. This is my 7th year. And I'm also the 8th grade president, so you might see me in one of the spirit videos that Veritas does in February, or other ways the student government is involved around the school. Nice to meet you.
Okay, hello. My name is Liesl Byers. I am 11 years old. This is my 7th year at Veritas, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Hi, I'm Madison. I'm 13 years old. I'm in the 8th grade, and this is my 5th year at Veritas.
Hi, I'm Theodora Byers. I am 13 and I'm in 8th grade, and this is my 7th year at Veritas.
I'll go next. I'm Jennifer. So I work with the full-time students in the diploma program. Prior to being an advisor, I was a homeschool mom, so I also kind of see things from both sides. My kids have been in diploma for several years, but we started with Veritas when they were in preschool. So it's been a long time. I have a student who's in 11th grade, 9th grade, and 5th grade, and then 3 who are already graduated and out of the house.
Elizabeth, and I am a family consultant. I have been a family consultant for 4 years. I help families navigate class choices, if they're part time, and then, help them make the decision if they want to stay part time or go full time. In addition to being a family consultant, I've been a Veritas Press family for 10 years. I have a 11th grader and now a preschooler, starting with Veritas. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here. It's really exciting. So I'm seeing questions starting to roll in. If you haven't asked a question yet, you may start having some pop in your mind as you're hearing these teachers and advisors and consultants and students responding to some of the questions that we have. So the first question I have is for teachers. I think we'll throw this into you, Shayna. Why don't we go with what is the best practice if I have to miss more than one class? And how do we inform the teacher? Or you can toss that over to Honesty too. It's up to you.
I was actually reading a Q&A question and need you to repeat it.
No, it's no problem at all. It says, what is required to get a good participation? Oh, I'm sorry. What is the best practice if
You're good. I've got it. You're fine. It just cut in and out for a second, but you're good. So the best practice for in-class participation is certainly depending on teachers, but most teachers at the grammar level in general want students to come on webcam, as you see us here, want students to be able to come on mic, want students to answer polls. That's a big one. If you're consistently having a student who just does not answer polls, it will detrimentally affect participation over time in the chat, coming on when they're called to come on and answer, whether it's verbally or on a webcam, and especially in math class, to be able to draw on the board when asked to draw. Now, not every class students are asked to draw, but in math class, that's certainly critical. So if there's a two-part to participation, though, because there's also certain times when the student will not be in class, and that is when we also have what we call our archive viewing reports. And this year there is a possible difference between some teachers. Most teachers, I think, are still requiring a typed 3 to 5 sentence summary of the archive that the student had to go watch, whereas some teachers this year have been given the choice to include picture uploads in their archive viewing report. And so those also can count toward participation. And any missed archive viewing report then has points deducted from that. So basically just if you're following whatever the teacher's saying, and even if you step away, that's understandable. But as long as you're participating generally, when asked, students should not have to worry about their participation grades at all.
Excellent. And I'm curious, just on that topic of participation, for the students here in the panel, is there anything that you've done that maybe you think would be really helpful for other kids to know to really increase that participation score? I know it's a general question, so if anyone wants to hop in, you're more than welcome.
I think one big thing is not just only participating when the teacher is asking you to, but also when the teacher is asking a general question to the class, you can raise your hand or even type it in the chat box. Now, I mean, that does vary for some teachers. Some teachers have told me that participating in the chat box doesn't count. Some teachers have. So it does vary from class to class. But yeah, generally, if you participate 1 or 2 times per class, you should have a solid participation grade, has been my experience.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, let's focus in on if a family's going to be out for, let's say, I don't know, an extended period of time. They're going on vacation. They're going to miss maybe 3 sessions. Shane, what would you say families should do to really kind of address that? How would they touch base with a teacher about this?
I've had several parents already sent me messages this year saying they're going to be gone on a trip for a few days. I love it when they send me a message a couple weeks before, at least, to let me know that's going to happen. I can open up tests and quizzes to you prior to. I love early submissions. So if there's any way you can be working ahead, I will work with you to get it completed, and then they just have to watch the archives when they get back. The students will need to watch the archives. They can't skip those, especially in math. You have to, and in every subject, but math is very orderly. So if you are missing a day or 2 days, make sure that before you come back to class, those students have watched those days that they have missed, so they're on target with us. You'll also need to fill out, if you're going to need an extension on any homework or tests or quizzes, you'll need to fill out an extension request and send that in. That will actually come directly to me, and I can respond to you and let you know that, yes, I'm giving you this extension, or hey, let's try to work ahead. It's all just a matter of keeping in touch. That's the biggest thing. Just talk to me. I'm not going to bite. In fact, I want to work with you. So I'm coming alongside you to work with you. I want to see that your students are succeeding. So if you're going to be gone, hey, go for it. Go for those vacations. It's cheaper during the school year. So do it by all means. But just give me a heads up and let me know that that's going to be happening. So.
Thank you so much. So the next question that I have is for Jennifer as an academic advisor. So if you're in the full-time program listening to the archive or here asking a question, the question was, what do I do if my students are staying up super late to do their homework? I guess this applies really to anyone, but especially full-time students. They have 6 live classes and we're feeling overwhelmed with the homework. What would you suggest they do?
Well, the first thing I would say is that it gets better. I promise you, it gets better. The first, maybe 4 weeks or so are honestly the most difficult, especially for new Veritas students. But practically, there are some things that, I recommend and that other advisors, will share, and teachers as well. Um, in the beginning, it's not just each particular class, but they're learning to adjust to the technology, to a whole different way of learning, different expectations from teachers, managing their schedules and their priorities. But some things that I found helpful with my own kids are, number one, not procrastinating. This is difficult. It's very difficult, but the longer they wait to do their work, the harder and the more dreaded it becomes. So, not procrastinating. That means that when they finish class, I try to get them into a routine. So they finish their classes, they take a break, have lunch, clear their head, but then they go back and they do their homework. Because ideally, we want everything done by dinner time so that after, dinner time, it's family time in our house. So by doing that, after they take that break after live classes, that definitely helps them to finish at a decent time. The next thing is using their Fridays and Saturdays in the beginning for catch ups. So we have no classes on Fridays. That's awesome. But those days are perfect for catching up on your work. And then after the first 4 to 6 weeks, that should kind of shift from the catch up to the work ahead a little bit. So that's sort of the goal that, in the beginning, we're just trying to tread water and keep ourselves afloat. But as time goes on, then we start to look ahead a little bit and use those days as working ahead days, which makes everything easier because it gives you a little bit of a breather. Another thing for students, sometimes the reading is difficult, even for our grammar students. There's a lot of reading in our literature classes, and sometimes they're not quite prepared for that. So doing different things for those can be really helpful, like audiobooks. I especially like if it's something, in an accent or something kind of cool to listen to on audio. That's fun. If you're in the car and you're going to go on a trip, audiobooks in the car are great for that. Another thing is reading aloud. I love reading aloud to my kids, no matter how old they are. I love reading aloud to them. So my favorite thing to do is make a batch of brownies, everybody cuddle up on the couch, and we read aloud. And that counts as reading. They're getting that, that same reading in when they're doing that. You can talk about it, ask questions, make sure they're following along and understanding. But anything you can do to kind of just kind of mix things up a little bit and help them out. Another thing is, parents being familiar with the course assignment sheets. That's super important. I always print one for myself and one for my kids, especially in the beginning, because it's really a parent's job to kind of help their kids, especially in grammar school. These kids are not ready to be independent learners at this point, so they need parents. They need us to do those things. So printing one for a parent, one for a student. At the end of the day before bed, I make my kids come to me. We look over. I make sure everything is checked off on their little handy boxes. I'm a very type A person, so checking the box, I love that. I absolutely love those little boxes. So we just go over them and I say, did you do this? Did you do this? Because normally if I say, did you do your homework? They say yes. But when I look at the course assignment sheet and say, did you do that? Oh, I forgot. So it really does help to be able to have a copy for yourself and do that. And it helps with planning too. So, you're proctoring tests and quizzes for your students. It's helpful if you know that's coming in the beginning. What that tends to look like is, Susie, you have a test coming up on Friday in math. When would you like to take that test? Because I have to proctor it. As time goes on, that should change to Susie saying, "Hey, mom, I have a test on Friday in math. When's a good time for you to proctor that?" So that's kind of the goal, that as they grow and learn and adjust, that sort of changes, and they become more stewards over their learning. um, and then I guess I'm trying to think what else. Utilizing extensions is helpful. Talking to the teachers and communicating, that is super important. Like Shauna said, I mean, just communicating. Communicate with your advisor, communicate with your teachers. Let them know if you're struggling. They will have tips. They know best how to help you in that particular class. Advisors are very familiar with things. We have students ourselves, so we've been there, we've done that. Just ask if you need tips, ask if you need help. Sometimes it can be just, getting an extension on something and giving a little bit of a breather. Sometimes it's just, readjusting the way you're doing things. Whatever the case is, though, reach out and communicate. Don't be silent and wait until things get really far behind and really overwhelmed. Um, I think that's about it. Encourage your students. They affirm every good thing they do. Affirm every time they do something well and turn things in on time. And it takes a lot of adjusting and a lot of grace, especially in the beginning. They are not born able to manage and prioritize their time and be able to run their life at this point. There's no student, I don't even care if you're in 10th, 11th, 12th grade, you're not perfect at that. I'm not perfect at that. So definitely, there's a learning curve, and look at it that way. Don't get discouraged if it's hard in the beginning. There were many tears with my kids when we started live classes. Many tears. In fact, Honesty had one of my kids, and she's probably remembers this, but there were many tears in the beginning as they adjusted. But after 4 to 6 weeks, it was like a whole different world in our house. And it was like, okay, whew, we can do this. And the more confidence they get that they can do it, the better they get and the more they rise to the occasion. And it's amazing to see that, because that's what we're doing as parents. We're teaching them how to function in the world and be independent. So this is a great training ground for that.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I
Sure.
also wanted to see if the students, I think Theodora and I think Madison, you both said that you maybe had some tips also for those who are listening about how exactly to deal with the overwhelm of homework as a student.
So something that really helps me is I am obsessed with making schedules. Um, so when the day in the morning, I like to make my schedule, and I set out however long I think it will take me to do my homework. And then I set a timer, and when I'm doing that, and I try to do it in that amount of time, and I set away all distractions. Because for me, like if I have my computer or my phone near me, then I get distracted with all the things going on, or even outside. So I really have to be sure that I just sit down, and I really just sit down and do my work, and then I have a lot more time to do other things. Another thing that helps me is I had a teacher tell me, I heard it this school year for the first time, that homework is like lifting weights. And I really liked that, because for me, I do strength training, and uh, it made a lot of sense. Like at first it'll burn, but then it'll get better and better, and the burn might come back, but it'll continue to progress, and you get a lot stronger, and you'll develop that muscle, and then you'll really be able to get used to it. And then also having periodic breaks between your homework, because for me, when I sit down, I can't do all my homework in one go. I do one subject, and then I maybe play game, or I eat lunch, or I go outside and take a walk, or take a run, or I exercise, or I go ride my horse. And then I come back and I do it again. And just having that really positive mindset, knowing that you can get this done, and that even if you're falling a little bit behind, that you just kind of dig deep and you kind of just get through it. And then just the positive mindset for me really helps, because my first few years I was a little bit nervous and scared and worried and shy, but then I started thinking more positively and became more confident. And all the people, the community is so encouraging, and then you just realize that you can get it done, and then you do, and then you eventually start working ahead, and it's really great.
That was great. Madison, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I'm also obsessed with making schedules, but I make schedules in my brain. Like, before I do my schoolwork, I listen to at least one when I get going. I'm happy. I cannot do my schoolwork when I'm stressed. I would also say the smartest thing to also do is to do schoolwork ahead of time, like on the weekend when you're the most available. Well, at least I'm the most available on the weekend. So like doing like I don't know, homework and stuff. I wouldn't say do quizzes just because you have to have a teacher teach you that kind of things. But doing homework in advance on the weekend. I know it's on the weekend, but like little by little, that would be really helpful. I do that a lot. um, don't do your homework 11 o'clock p.m. and the homework assessment is due, or whatever it is, due at 11:55 p.m. That can be so stressful. That's definitely happened to me before. Um, many times I used to get my homework at late, very, very late, when I first started Veritas. So I kind of transitioned from not doing that anymore, which has been very helpful. I used to get so stressed. I'm like, I have 55 minutes left, I have 3 minutes left. It just really stresses you out. So try to do it in advance.
Yeah, some things I would add to that, adding on to what Theo said. Yeah, definitely with the distractions, be proactive. Like do your homework away from your computer, away from your phone, or even just what I found, like delete the window or the tab that Schoology or email or something is on, if you have to have it with you to do your homework. And then with the schedules, like Madison was saying, and Theo as well, but maybe even just write them on paper so you can have them with you, referring to them throughout the day, or on Google Calendar or some other calendar app if you use that. And then kind of a more complex tip, I'll try to simplify it a little bit, but what's worked for me in developing my schedule weekly is looking on the website, the Solvay's course website. If you go to course, if you log in and go to course enrollments on the left, and just search for the class that you're in, then at the bottom of the description, you'll be able to see, for most classes at least, I think, the amount of hours weekly that you'll be expected to spend on homework. And this has really helped me a lot, because sometimes I find that, oh, I might be doing not as much that I need to be doing for that class. That might be why I'm struggling, or maybe I'm doing too much even. So, and then maybe what I would do, and what's helped me and my siblings, Nolan, Calvin, and Naomi, is to divide that into the days weekly. So if you're the type of person who does a little bit of schoolwork each day, Monday to Friday, then divide that amount of time into 5, and then do that amount of time that you get on each day. And then, well, I'm more the type of person who does homework after each class on that day for the next class, and then do major assessments on Friday, like projects or tests or quizzes or stuff like that. So again, just divide it by 3, and just for a rough approximate. And then also, I believe one of them mentioned this, but definitely taking a brain break. And sometimes some classes I've been have implemented that in class, but maybe doing like a lot of VSA students seem to do piano, so maybe take a few minutes to do piano right after classes, so that your brain will be fresh for homework, or some other extracurricular activities. So yeah, that was what I was going to say.
Okay, so I was just gonna add one more thing. I was just gonna say, do your schoolwork when you know that you're at your best. I'm a morning person, so I do my schoolwork in the morning. If something is due at 8 a.m., I probably do it like the morning before that, just because that still can be kind of stressful. But like, if you know beyond a shadow of a doubt you're not a morning person, you're half asleep looking like a zombie, then just don't do it in the morning. Do it whenever you know that you can be your best at your work. Because even if you do get it in early, if it's like I'm not a night person, so if I do my work at night and I still get in early, it will not be my best work, and I know that. So I would recommend doing it when you can do it at your best.
Yeah, go ahead, Theodore. I know that we have one more comment. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I also sometimes what helps me is when I'm doing math or something other than reading, doing homework. If I turn on a song, like if I listen to music, usually not with words, but if I listen to music, then it really helps me to just calm down and to relax and to get a lot more focus, and it helps me a lot. So that's another thing.
Those were really awesome tips. Thank you all for sharing. Although I have to say, I still really just want Mrs. Pearson's brownies that she referred to. Sounds amazing. All right. So my next question is for our family consultant, Elizabeth here. I had some people ask, they say, I hear people mention that they had someone help them with picking classes. We, as a family, the person asking the question, just chose what made sense to us, but I'm worried that wasn't the smartest move. Who are the people that everyone's talking to about their schedule? How do I talk to them? What do I do?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a team of family consultants here at Veritas Press who have years of experience with their own students in our classes, and we are passionate about making sure that your students are taking the classes that are best for them. And so we offer customized plans because we know, not all students learn the same way. And so we want to work alongside you and help you pick those classes. And also throughout the year, if you have any trouble, we're also available to try to problem solve and find ways to make your student as successful as possible. In order to meet with a family consultant, you can request a consult. They are free. We are happy to help. And like I said, we have a team. So we try to get to you very quickly. So.
Awesome. And I know we don't have a chat box out for me to throw that link for everyone, but at the end of this meeting, I will. In case you don't already have a family consultant you're connected with and you're a part-time student, they will help you. They're incredible. And so are our advisors if you become part of our full-time family. Okay, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to come back to some of the student questions we pulled externally and get to some other questions that we have in here, and then we'll come back. This question, I'd like to toss to Honesty, and if anyone else wants to jump in, you're welcome. It's been answered privately, but just for the whole group. For a new VSA 5th grade student, how much participation by a parent is helpful in the student's management of homework and classwork? Trying to assess the balance between helping them to get started and not letting them do more on their own. Thank you.
Yes, and I believe I had answered that one, so I'm so glad you asked, Rebecca. There's a fine balance at the beginning of the year, especially at 5th grade, of wanting to be over everything, but also wanting to allow students to have some autonomy. So I would say maybe the first quarter even is fine to go back and check every assignment or to go back and look and just keep a really close watch on the grades tab on the student's course page, so that you can just make sure everything is getting done. But then maybe as you go into the school year in the second quarter and beyond, maybe do like surprise checks without telling the student. And then that way you'll be able to catch something before it becomes an issue. And then if you need to, readjust at that point how much involvement is needed, you certainly can have some give and take throughout the year. So I would start a little stronger and then kind of back off a little bit as the year progresses and just see how that goes.
Okay. I want to add to that. I will say with my son, that was a learning experience. I had him. I'm a very control freak. And if you've been in my classes, Maddie, I'm so excited to see you. It's been so long. Maddie's one of my babies. And she was an 11. She tried to see how late she could wait before turning an assignment in. And it burned her so many times. She's awesome though. I'm so proud of her. Look at her. Anyway, as far as with my son, I started out on top of him. I would set the schedule up. I would look at the course assignment sheets, make sure that, okay, this is the homework we're doing today. Make sure it was checked off. As he has progressed, I mean, honestly, he does it all himself now. And I will go through the calendar and check and make sure that he's up to date, because I get notifications if an assignment's late. and then we have a chat. But for the most part, he does it all himself. He's in communication with the teachers. But I will say, as far as communication with the teachers, parents, please look at your messages. Get them set up in Schoology. That's where I communicate with you. So please check those messages regularly, because I am going to, if I see that they're struggling in class, or if they're not turning an assignment in, I'm sending you a message to your account. And that's also where your tests and quizzes go. So you need to make sure that you are checking on those regularly, at least every other day, to make sure to stay on top of that, because I am going to communicate with you too if they're needing some help.
Awesome. Thank you. Just out of curiosity, and students, I don't know if you'll know this answer, but I'm just curious. Just by show of hands, like first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade, was there a grade for you that you felt like you started having a lot more independence? Like your parents said, hey, this is on you now? Like, is there, or are you still not feeling it? Okay, looks like seventh-ish, sixth-ish. Okay, six. Okay. And I see some nodding over from Jennifer and maybe Elizabeth. Is that around the age that you felt like that's when you gave some of that independence back over? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, definitely 6th, 7th grade was a big shift in our house. So definitely.
Awesome. All right. I have another question that was answered privately, but we'll ask it for anyone else who might be wondering. My student is struggling with typing quickly enough to be heard in class and answer questions. Are there suggestions on how to get better? I believe the answer is time, but maybe there's something I'm not aware of. Is there something such as a talk to text? I saw, Jennifer, I saw you answer that one privately. Would you mind starting us off? And then anyone else who has a tip is welcome to hop in here.
Sure. So definitely the answer is time. They will get better with time and with practice. But I know in the interim, that doesn't really help. Honestly, when my kids were really young, a lot of times I would type for them when they had assignments or when they had something that was timed, like a timed quiz or a timed test. I would type for them when they were really little. I don't know what grade your kids are in at this point, but some typing programs that we always recommend for our diploma students. There's one called typing.com, which is really good. That's kind of probably the most common, most popular used one. There's Dance Mat Typing. This is geared towards, younger little kids. There's one called Nitro Type and Mavis Beacon. That would be more for students who already know how to type but just want to increase their speed. So doing those, it can be fun, and it can be just a good way for them to practice those skills. Sometimes I would just give my kids something like a page and say, type this, practice typing this. And we would kind of make it a game to see like how fast they could do it or how many words per minute they could do, and then try to beat, the other sibling to see how fast we could do it. But definitely time. It does take time, just to get practice and get good at that. And, there's a lot going on in a live class too. They're listening, they're watching, there's other people there. There's, they're trying to type and talk and do all of these things together. So it takes some coordination and time for, to kind of get that down too.
Anyone else have any typing tips for in classroom or outside of? I just don't want to cut anyone off if anyone does. Okay. Here's another great question. Someone asked, when you ask for an extension, is a percentage taken off the grade? And just to clarify, in case anyone in here isn't fully aware of what that extension is referring to, we're talking about a grade extension. So you missed class and you'd like to submit something, but you need to submit it later than the due date. That's what we're referring to here. I'll toss it to Honesty or Shana to start us off. And then if anyone else has tips or thoughts there, they're welcome to join in.
Go ahead, Honesty. Okay, I guess I'll take it. I can't. Can you all hear her? Okay. Honesty.
All right. So,
all right. Okay. So as far as the extension, I'm not going to take points off. No, but I will say I may not give it to you if you ask for it a minute before the actual assignment's due. So, I mean, if you wait till the very last minute, I might go, okay. And the excuse is we just have too much work. That is, I mean, we've all got a lot of work. So this is organizing, getting things lined up. For the most part, I give out the extensions. Just ask me a day ahead. That would be great. No points are deducted, not at all. We're here to work with you. We don't want your kids to fail. So just let us know what's going on, and we'll do our best to help you out.
And Theodore, go ahead and tell us your tip. I know that you said you had a real life experience from yourself.
Yes. So also, I'm not a teacher, obviously, but they will grant you the extension if there's an emergency. Like a few years ago, I broke my arm, and so it was very sudden, and I couldn't get my assignments in. I couldn't go to class that day because I was in the hospital. But the teachers were so gracious with that, and like the whole few months that I was having that experience, they were really gracious with my due dates because I had all these doctor's appointments and stuff. And also, I ride horses. So when I have a show or a lesson that's at a conflicting time, I can just give them a quick heads up and they'll be like, yeah, you can miss this class, or I'll give you an extra week or an extra few days to get this assignment in.
Awesome. Thank you for that addition. All right. I have a question for the students here, and maybe we'll have two of you respond to one and two to another. That would be awesome. The question here is, how did you balance social life and your workload? So do I have one of you who can start that off and then someone else can hop back in?
I mean, I guess I can start that off. So what I have thought, our family usually does dinner at 5 o'clock or 4:30, 5:30. It depends. But like we mentioned earlier, setting off that evening for family time or for extracurricular activities or whatever you do can be really helpful. Weekends, I mean, if you have a project or homework or something that you need to do, then do it. But my goal is always for every week not to have anything to do on Saturday, and hopefully never on Sunday. But yeah, just making sure that before even you do your school schedule, that I know I want to have this amount of time for my social life. So I'm not doing school past this point. And then maybe add your school schedule in before that is what I would say.
And then for me, so I sometimes have activities that I have to do in the afternoon. So I like to personally to get all my work done in the morning because that's when I'm at my best. And then I can really just focus on that. And then later in the afternoon, I can focus on my activities. And it was pretty hard for me to figure that out when I first came. It took a little bit, but once I did, it was really helpful because it definitely is possible to have a social life and to be at a demanding school. It when I first came, I was like, is it though? But it is. It definitely is. It is a little bit tricky to get into that rhythm at first, but then you do get into that rhythm, and it's really nice because at least I do my work in the morning, and then I have the afternoon or the weekend or Sunday free to hang out with friends or my family.
Awesome. Thank you both. And then for Lisa and Madison, I have a kind of related question, but I think it's a little more specific to VSA. How do the students here connect with each other? What can my students do to get plugged in?
Yeah, so we have lots of things here at Veritas. We have student meetings, we have student movie nights, we have student game nights, we have student commons. That's the biggest thing. I have practices at a lot of the times that we have student game nights, student meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So I probably make my closest friends here at Veritas from breakout rooms from my classes. Breakout rooms is like, I don't know, opens the doors to friendships or something. So we just, exchange numbers, exchange emails, whatever you have to exchange. That's how I make most of my friends from Veritas.
Okay. So I I really enjoy student comments sometimes. It's really fun to have chats with people. And you can make little chats like what's your favorite book or something, and then people will respond and you can have this little conversation. But also if it's getting to too much of a distraction, which has happened to me before, you can leave it, and that's really nice. Yeah, and also like Madison said, the most way that I make friends is in classes or in breakout rooms, or yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. And that's a good reminder for all the teachers here of the importance of the breakout rooms. I was thinking about it as you were talking, how important that is. Okay, this is a question a lot of you here have children and maybe multiple children who you've been trying to navigate homeschooling with. The question is a really good one. How to manage multiple students in the grammar school without getting overwhelmed. I would love to hear some tips from parents of homeschoolers, and then students, if you kind of hear what's being said and think, this is something my mom and dad did really well. Here's a tip. Love to hear from you afterwards too. So we'll start out with the parents of homeschoolers. How about this? I'll kick it off by tossing it to one of you. Well, you know what, Jennifer, you replied privately to that. So why don't you start us out here? And then if anyone else has additional tips, that would be awesome.
Sure. So how to manage multiple students in grammar school. I think the number one thing is that you're teaching them and you're training them to take ownership of their school and their learning. Um, by the time we said that 6th, 7th grade is kind of that point where it's like, oh, this is a whole different world. All of a sudden it's like they've arrived. Until then it's tough, it really is. But there are things that you can do. One, print those course assignment sheets for yourself, or have them easily accessible so that you know what's going on with them. For tests, we always put those on the calendar, on our family calendar, so that it wasn't a surprise at the last minute, like 8 o'clock at night on a Friday when we're about to go out on, a date. And it's like, oh, mom, by the way, we have a test to proctor and it's 3 hours. And it's like, well, that's not going to work for us. So just kind of knowing in advance, like when they're going to have those tests, we would put those on the calendar. I would spend time with each of my kids, checking in each day and say, okay, next in line, because I have a lot. And then we would just kind of go over and say, all right, where are we at today? And then we would look at the week ahead. And so if we're always looking at the day and then the week ahead, we're reviewing that each time. So, Monday we're looking at what's today's look like and then what's coming up. Then Tuesday we're doing the same thing. Wednesday we're doing the same thing. So it's kind of just emphasizing that with them and just reiterating and repeating over and over, like, okay, this is what we have coming up. And so that was always helpful for me. You teach classes, if you do those, there's a lot of flexibility built in there, a lot. So having kind of a mixture of live and you teach is super helpful when you have a lot of kids in grammar school, or those self-paced classes too. Working ahead, I know that sounds like impossible in the beginning of the school year, but if you can just get a little bit ahead, it just gives you that margin, that breathing room where you don't feel like, you're 5 minutes before the deadline on everything. So just a little bit ahead if you can get to that point, even if it's just in reading. Sometimes reading is an easy way to get ahead. If you have younger kids, bedtime stories are awesome. So using, that time, it can be really quality time if you're spending it, with your literature book, before bed. So just doing things like that. If you're in the car on the way somewhere, kind of just talking with your kids about it, talking with, what's going on with school, how are you doing with this? The reason we have those course assignment sheets, one of the reasons is so parents know what's going on in class with their kids. So you have every day it tells you exactly what your child is learning, so it's a good way to kind of talk to them about it. Reaching out to the teachers, again, communication is probably the answer to every question we could come up with tonight. Just communicating, letting them know, because they'll have tips, they'll be able to help you and say, like, hey, this really works well, try this. Or your advisor, if you're in diploma, this is what we do. We field calls and emails and, my kid's having a hard time with this, or I'm struggling with this, or, just just let somebody know, because somebody else has been there before. I guarantee it. There's a teacher or an advisor who has already walked that path with many kids and has survived it. So just communicating and and relying on that experience, and then breathing and trusting the Lord that he will get you through all of this. It is not the end of the world. It is not the biggest, most important thing. I had one father the other day who, I mean, just was a basket case, and he said, we're staying up until midnight, and he has a third grader. And I said, no, just stop right now. We're not going to do that anymore at all. We're going to rework all of this. So just, these are kids too. Learning is very important, but having, family time is very important too. Having life is very important too. And that goes for parents too. So just kind of being on top of things and then teaching them, so that by the time they get to be the 6th, 7th, 8th graders, you can step back and, say, okay, you guys got this. I'll just kind of come in and out and check on things. But for the most part, by then, your job is not done, but it's easier.
That's awesome, Jennifer. Thank you. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Yeah. So, another thing that I see a lot as a family consultant is, families who have children who are close in age and, managing those different subjects. What's great is some of the curriculum can actually be combined for some students, such as, history, Bible, geography. So that is always an option that, your family consultant or your academic advisor can kind of talk to you about, and if that's a possibility. Um, Another great option is, if you're doing a mixture of live, you teach, self-paced, is kind of planning out your schedule appropriately. And, while your older student is in a live class, taking that time to do you teach with one of your younger students, that can really make your day a little bit easier. And, with having that break, being able to spend time with your other students.
Thank you so much for adding that. And then, Lisa, would you mind adding something for students? I know that you mentioned you had a thought.
Well, actually, this is kind of what my mom did, or does. She writes out the schedule for all my sister's classes and my classes. And for my classes, she does some you teach stuff with me. Like this year, she's doing grammar with me and linguistics and stuff like that. So she writes out when she's going to do that, what time we're going to meet at right after my classes or after a little break. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we have just about one or two more questions here. I know we're getting close to the end. Let me ask this one. We'd like to know where to buy audiobooks for literature classes. And there's probably multiple answers, but any thoughts from our teachers here? Where do you usually suggest that people get audiobooks?
I have a subscription to Audible. And so my son's actually been tapping into that the past week. He's used all my credits. So yes, that's what we actually do. We have that subscription, and that actually helps. And a lot of those books are free once you have a subscription. So yeah, it's very helpful.
I just recently learned this past year that we can reply direct. I was going to say the same. Can y'all hear me this time? Or no? Okay. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. So I didn't have anything to add to that one.
Awesome. There are some free resources out there too that aren't Audible, but the challenge is the edition isn't always in line. So I think of LibriVox, if it's kind of a classic, it's probably going to be there, but the reading is a little off. So you kind of just have to check it against there. All right. And then here as we get towards the end, this is really one of these questions that is big, and I don't know who will want to answer this first, but I think it's the primary reason why we had this session. This person says, my son is doing okay with the work, but he doesn't seem happy overall because he misses interacting with other kids on a regular basis. A lot of times there's conflicts with the live classes. What should we do? How do we sort of bring in that reconnecting with others? And I know this ties to some of the other questions we were talking about before, but I want to throw that out there to anyone who can respond. I see a few, actually, I see some students ready to jump in. So Madison, why don't you start us off, and Lisa, you can jump in too.
So, I'm an actress and I also do track. So I would say definitely having your child do a sport is just really helpful for interacting with friends. And you can also make friends through Veritas. I have lots of friends that I've met through Veritas. We went to the end of year gathering, um, the end of year trips, things like that. So you can still have friends even with doing a homeschool.
Okay, so well, as she said, it's really fun to have friends in Schoology so that you can interact with them. You can get like their email, phone number, or whatever like you want, or you can just go on Commons and chat with them. Also, for like if you do sports, if there's let's say a competition or something, like it's very I like my sisters do this all the time. You can just skip classes and do the archive viewing report and watch the archive, and that's totally fine as long as you don't like do it every single day. But some students are archive students, so yeah.
And then just something that I'm gonna say, when I first came, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving all my friends and I'm not gonna make any friends because I'm never gonna talk to people. Totally exaggerated. I cannot tell you how many friends I have. It's incredible. And I have the best relationships with my teachers. Like I still keep in touch with old ones. And I have developed great relationships with both teachers and students. And like I talk to my friends all the time, and I have a really close relationship with a lot of my friends. So you can definitely, like Lisa was saying, it is hard at first to like make friends because you're a little bit shy and stuff. But once you do, it's incredible how close the community gets.
Awesome. And someone asked about the difference between student commons and student connections, or just what it is in general. Dawson, if you could answer that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so Student Commons is more generated for, well, just anybody, I believe, who has a live class, maybe just, I actually don't know, but any VSA students, whether they're full-time or part-time, can access that. And simply what they need to do is they just need to log into Schoology, go to groups at the top, the blue bar, and under that they should see Student Commons like 6 to 7 or 3 to 5 or whatever grade group they're in. Um, and that is comprised mostly of discussions. There's tons of discussions in there because there's a lot of students. And they have occasional game nights and movie nights, I think once per month, if I remember correctly. But Student Connections is only for grades 7 to 12. That's only for full-time students. It's a lot more interactive. You can connect a lot more, a lot better that way, because there's a lot less students because not as many students are full-time. And it's only for like 7th grade. There's a Student Connection 7th grade group. There's a Student Connection 8th grade group. So only about like 100 students versus like 1,000 that you would have in Student Commons. So a much better way to interact when you get older, because we have meetings like every half month, and other like movie nights maybe, or anything that the officers for that age group would decide to do, like study sessions or stuff like that.
Thank you so much. I know we're here at the end. I really appreciate these questions. I just want to take a moment to pray for you all and to thank this panel here. A few things, just as we're ending here, I'll pull this out so we can put a chat box in, because I want to make sure that we give you the link. If you're still having questions and you don't already have a consultant, or you're not in the full-time program with an advisor, please do reach out and fill out this form for your free consultation. And Elizabeth, if you have a better link that you like even more, you can throw that in there too. I just grabbed from the website. But I want to pray for all of you and thank each of you, teachers, advisors, consultant, and students especially. I'm just so thankful you guys were able to be here tonight and answer questions. It was truly a blessing to have you. And let me pray for everyone as we close out for the evening. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to come together and learn and grow. with a foundation of your truth, your word. God, we are from all over the world, different backgrounds, different experiences, but we have one thing in common: our love for you and our passion to see our children just grow in the knowledge of who you are. Please help us here at Veritas to support our parents in the way that we can, any way that giftings you've given us can best support them. Help them to know who to ask for good questions or their questions to. Give them peace that gets them through the next few weeks as they are just figuring it out. Show them grace and mercy, because you are so good and we are so excited to be here furthering your kingdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We're so thankful you are all here. We hope to see you guys in class and around school. You can see our names, you know us. Hopefully you'll recognize us and we'll be a friendly face to you. This will be recorded. If you want to share it to another family, you know, they feel like they've had questions, but they couldn't make it tonight, I will share it underneath the most recent post in Schoology. All right. Thank you all for being here. You guys have a great night. Bye.